shared screen. Everybody can see the shared screen? Yes?
Yes.
Check 1, 2, 3. All right, yes. Okay, so this is PV's internal discussion for budget debate 2022, right? And we shall examine aspects of the boundary budget and point out any good points in it or any flaws in it, right? And basically what could be better come as a proposal. Okay, I'll serve as a moderator here and the discussion here. Pardon me because it's my first time doing something like this. Okay, so we'll get on with it. Lim Tian will be joining us for today. I think he's head of some law case or what. Yeah, so that's his side of the story. Okay, never mind. Nevertheless, we shall go on. But if more people will join, I'll add them in. Okay, just let me know if there are more people joining. Okay, so right now, without further ado, I hand the presentation to Leong Zhe Yen while I share some slides. Okay, Ken.
Okay, thank you, Michael. You know, practically every year, I'm involved in some budget forum. Sometimes it's a pre-budget forum where people will talk about what is your wish list and all that. Sometimes it's a post-budget forum that after they know what the budget is. And very often in some years, we have both pre and post. This year, to the best of my knowledge, I don't think anybody has done the pre-budget forum. And even now, other than what you see on the news, where they have some discussion, I don't think I've seen anyone do a post-budget forum where we look at what is it in the budget that, well, arguably may not be so desirable. So having said that, I think the problem with most of the budget forums is that the speaker will prepare his presentation, so they come and they talk, and it really has no bearing on what the participants may really be thinking about or what is the burning question. And of course in Singapore it's a bit funny. In many of the budget forums you may have noticed, even the questions are prepared in advance. So it's like in Parliament, right? Then how come follow-up questions, the reply is read out from a speech, it's as if the person answering already know what the questions were beforehand. So I want to try to do this in a slightly different way, I think more fun and more interactive. I want to engage all of you and try to address what I would like to start off with as the most burning question for you in relation to the budget. So, Gordon, tell me, what is if I say you only have a chance to ask one question, right?
Okay.
What would it be?
What will it be? I don't think there is any reason to explain that 15% is actually it is net. Example, A registered GST, so self-receive is not registered, self-receive. C not registered GST and self-receive is GST registered. C add the GST and sell out. So it's not
Sorry, Gordon, we cannot hear you because there's too much echo. There is too much echo. Can you just put it not on loudspeaker perhaps, then we can hear you closer or something?
No, I'm not on loudspeaker now. I'm on earpiece. Can you hear me?
Yes, much better now, yeah.
Quite muffled. You need to pronounce louder or speak.
Yeah, you're much better now. It's okay. Please go continue.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. The 2% GST is not an absolute 6%. Because there's a multiplier that is.
Okay, thank you, Gordon. I think I more or less got the gist of your question.
Yeah.
Sorry, but you were breaking up as you were speaking in the beginning. I think, you were very, very soft. There were echo. But more or less, I think I got your question, and I believe your question is really on the GST increase. Why is there really a need to increase GST? Well, I think it's a very good question, and it must be the question that everybody in Singapore is asking, right? And
Yeah.
I think the problem with Singapore is this: every year when the budget comes out, the to me what I would call the most important statistic required in a budget debate is never talked about. And what I'm referring to is our reserves. Now we have an estimated reserves of 1.96 trillion. So even at 5%, a conservative 5% return a year, 5% of 1.96 trillion, you're looking at $98 billion a year. So as Gordon, as you said, is there really a need to increase GST to derive additional revenue of 3.5 billion when at a very conservative 5% rate of return on your reserves, you have 98 billion. Now, what is even more, should I say, timely, is that last year it has been reported that GIC's return was 37.5%. Now, the amount of assets that GIC manages is estimated to be just over $1 trillion. Now, 37.5% of this slightly over $1 trillion works out to slightly over $380 billion return for last year. Now, you divide 380 billion by 3.5 billion, you're talking about more than 100 times the annual additional revenue from increasing the GST. So it's very sad, I think, in Singapore that to the best of my living memory, practically in every budget debate, nobody does a substantial debate talking about our reserves, the return, how much we are using, how much we are not using, and so on. Yeah. So on that note, I just pause here a moment and see if anyone has a further question or comment. Over to you guys. No, nothing? Okay, so we have to move on to Woon Chen, right? So if you have one burning question, what would it be?
Okay, this is my take, okay? Whatever they posted, right? But is it really on the GIC's website? Did they say it or did they just reported this on the mainstream media?
Very
Because
good
it's a-
question. Yeah, very good.
But it's a very big difference, you know?
Yes, very good question. Our reserves have always been a secret. In other words, whenever people ask how much reserves do we have, there's no answer, right? It's a secret. Now the reserves comprise of three components: Temasek, the official foreign reserves, and GIC. Now Temasek and the official reserves are published public information, so we know how much it is. Okay, these two add up to about $1 trillion. It's the GIC figure that we don't really know. However, and this is very funny, right? A few years ago, someone was GIC was accepting an award at some dinner. That means GIC was getting an award, and then the person who was accepting the award actually told the told the attendees at the dinner how much assets they were managing. So they let the cat out of the bag, so to speak. And a few years ago, when we added this figure to Temasek and the official foreign reserves, we came to a figure of just over 1.5 trillion. Now, how do we get 1.96 trillion now, as I mentioned, the estimate? Because Bloomberg, in a recent article, I think last month, estimated the figure of GIC at 744 billion US dollars, which is about a trillion. So Wunten, I hope that answers your question. Why we know, well, I mean, it's supposed to be secret, but it's not a secret for practically everybody in the international financial community because everybody knows. Okay.
Okay, wait, Leon, can I clarify again? Sorry, I need to record down the official things. So, okay, Temasek, you're saying Temasek alone or Temasek plus foreign reserves?
Temasek plus official foreign reserves
How much
is
is
about
it?
a trillion.
1 trillion, 1T, is it?
Yes.
Could we isolate the Temasek or cannot?
Yeah. Temasek is
By
it's
itself?
about 300 over billion. Yeah.
300 over billion.
Yeah.
Is it estimated or reported?
No, reported. Temasek has an annual report every year,
Okay,
and the
correct. It's
official
company,
foreign
right?
reserves are actually updated every month
Okay,
on the
so Temasek
website.
is how many? Temasek is how many?
300 over billion. I can't remember the exact figure. I
300
think
plus
it's
billion.
about
Okay, fine.
380 or something. Yeah.
Fine. Anyway, the foreign reserves fluctuate. Okay, so the next question is how much was the GIC again?
GIC latest estimate is just over 1 trillion.
Not 744, man?
744 is US dollars. You convert to Sing dollar, it's just over a trillion.
So all these are in Sing dollars,
Yes,
right?
all in Sing dollars.
Okay.
So the 1.96 trillion estimate
Okay, guys.
for the reserve now is
Temasek, right, is 381 billion Sing dollars or 282 US billion dollars. Yeah,
Okay,
that is
Sing dollars,
Temasek.
Sing dollars. So Prabhu
No, Sing dollars is 381B, Temasek.
1B, okay. Sing SGD lah, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, alright. So altogether we have a total estimate of 1.96 lah.
yes,
Correct?
Yeah,
1.96
total
trillion.
1.96.
How about the land sales? Nothing, right?
No,
Land
I
sales
think
under
we
where?
okay. That's a good question. The land sales, the proceeds go into the reserves. So when we say 1.96 trillion, it probably includes all the land sales proceeds over the years.
But the land sales seems to be missing from here because you see Temasek plus foreign plus, where am I? Plus, where am I? Temasek plus foreign plus GIC, right? So altogether, where does the land sales go to? I don't see
No.
any input.
Every year you have land sales.
Mm-hmm.
The proceeds is about 10 over billion normally.
Yes.
And this money will be, become part of the government's reserves. So it's
Okay, so
already
official
included.
reserves lah, GIC lah. Is it GIC or no?
Well, we don't know exactly where it goes, but most likely, I believe, especially in recent years, it's probably going into GIC.
Okay, so it's probably, but we cannot confirm lah. So the
Most likely.
estimated amount for land sales is about 10 billion only lah.
10 over billion a year, not estimate, it's actual because it's reported every year in the budget.
Okay, but they don't know, they did not exactly pinpoint where it goes, no? Not in the GIC, no
Yeah, but I think that is not really crucial
Okay.
in the sense that, in terms of the budget debate, what we want to know is altogether how much we have, right?
Alright, alright.
Then
So
we
since
can
it's
figure out whether we are using enough or we are keeping too much or whatever. And I just want to give you another statistic. Now, the COVID-19 budgets, the committed amount was close to 100 billion. No? But in the budget speech last week, the actual amounts used, taken from the reserves, has been reduced to only 52 billion. In other words, they actually used much less than what they originally projected. Okay,
so
over to you
annual
guys.
budget is about 100 bill.
Yeah,
and
but
they
the actual draw on the reserves announced in the budget speech last week has been reduced to about 52 billion.
means bolui already lah.
In other words, you projected a lot, but we didn't use so much. Okay, shall we move next to maybe Prabhu? What is your most burning question?
Okay, mine would basically be the chatter that's going on in the financial community that okay, that they increased GST for that estimated 3.5p, but GIC alone, the returns is about over 300p. So even 1%, are they that illiquid? Because we keep hearing that they hold a lot of assets of between Temasek, GIC, and they keep holding assets. But how much of the assets is actually liquid versus illiquid? This is the question I'd like to ask.
Okay, your question is, okay, we say we have 1.96 trillion. How
Yes.
much of this is liquid that if we need the money, we can take it out straight away, right? Okay.
Yes.
Now, of course, much of the assets of Temasek and probably some of the assets of GIC may not be very liquid as you put it, nah? Because for Temasek, quite a lot of the assets are in private equity, and GIC, a lot is in overseas investments in various asset classes. Okay, so when we talk about last year they had a return of 37.5%, 380 billion as you mentioned, this would be the so-called paper gain, it's not a realized gain. But
Ah,
to answer your question, I would estimate that easily in terms of very liquid assets that you can dispose of very quickly, and get your money within days. Easily, we're looking at maybe 100 billion, as a bare minimum. So quite a sizable amount of money is actually liquid if you want to sell it and take the money out now. Okay,
so
Prabhu, does that
technically,
answer your?
their liquid positions is about 100B. Spending about 3 to 5B should not be an issue, right? On like social spending, on like things like public healthcare, pensions, and like instead of needing to raise the GST or like petrol tax and stuff like that.
Yes, I absolutely agree with you that if you're talking about a few $1 billion, liquidity is not an issue at all.
Okay.
Okay, anyone else has a comment or question?
Okay, may I,
Yes,
okay,
yes,
this
Sun
is
Tian.
my comment. Okay, I think whatever profits they can claim or not, it is not funneling to the citizens. Okay, and so it for me we can talk this till the cows come home, but I think the strategic intention for PV is to come from another angle, because whatever we say, we are not going to enjoy the whatever. They can even claim they make 200,000%, but it doesn't funnel to the citizens, so it doesn't matter to me.
Yes, very good point. And so your issue is that it's pointless. You talk about how much we have, how much we can use when hardly any of it is being used for the benefit of the citizens, and
Yeah,
particularly for the lower income, right?
yeah, whether it's healthcare, housing, whatever, they are not spending anything on us. But we must find a way to communicate this. It doesn't matter to the ordinary Singaporeans who I think to begin with, they are not thinking people. We must find a very, very basic way of explaining to the people in Singapore. It doesn't matter.
Okay, Leong, I have a question. Okay, I heard recently that they put quite a huge amount into gold right? As reserves, right? What you say about private, in place of private equities, they're pouring quite a lot into gold. Now, what is the expected gold position, and how much are they supposed to appreciate that as well? So the question is, gold is pretty liquid, but they're doing so, treating as kind of a liquid asset for the moment, right? So how much is gold expected to rise? Is it actually a good investment for them to do that? I understand Wen Chen's question, but I was supposed to put this prior to Wen Chen's question. Sorry,
It's okay.
the
Thank
gold
you.
investment. What is
Yeah.
the gold
Thank
outlook?
yeah.
Investment.
Thanks for
How
the
much did they
question,
put into it?
Michael. Let me try
In
to answer
in
Wen
any
Chen
case,
first.
in times of war, gold is the best form of investment in times of war.
Yes. So I'm just saying right now is are they looking as a necessary investment? That is why they're trying to budget this, because the mechanisms of growth has actually been limited, especially in these COVID times, right? Other than commodities and stuff like. So I want to know from Yong Zehian's perspective, how much did they put into gold, and how is the likely outlook? I.e., is it going to be a loser investment again?
No, I don't think. Okay, I think now we have a bigger problem. The pandemic is not over, and the war has started between Russia and Ukraine.
Yeah.
Okay, we
So
have the
exactly.
second layer. We have the second layer of problem now, and whatever it is, to hold gold during wartime is really good. And by the way, yesterday when the war started, the worldwide stocks has taken a beating of 20%.
Okay. So my question to Leong, what is your expected outlook on the gold investment, and is it actually a good investment? How does it benefit the people, or is it expected to benefit the people?
Okay, the answer is nobody knows that, right? You know, whether gold is going to be a good or bad investment going forward, what time frame, short term, long term. But gold historically has always been what we sometimes like to call it as insurance. Okay, like Wen Chen says, you know, when there's a crisis, a war, like yesterday, gold went up a couple of percent. Today it fell about 1.1+%. So it's always good to have some gold in your portfolio because it acts in a way like a form of insurance, even though gold does not provide returns or interest or dividends. But like Wen Chen says, it's always good to have some because you never know when there's a crisis or there's war, typically gold may jump. So let me get back to Wen Chen's question, which I think Wen Chen, I want to give you as of by now the best question of the evening, you know, because like you say, no point talking until the cows come home, right? If we are not using it for the benefit of our citizens. Okay. Now, if you look at the budget revenue and the budget expenditure, the projected deficit for FY 2022, if I remember correctly, is about $5 billion deficit for FY 2022. So to answer Wen Chen's question, it's not that the government is not spending money, okay? They are spending projected $5 billion more than what they're collecting for FY 22. But I think you hit it right on the nail. The way we do our budget accounting is quite uniquely Singapore. We will do one-time transfers to trust and endowment funds, and then we charge it off as a one-time expenditure when actually the expenditure is for many years in the future. So actually under IMF fiscal reporting guidelines, you shouldn't be doing that lah, you know, right? And so for a very long time, in many years, we have in a sense been under reporting the budget surpluses, making the budget surplus look much less than it actually is if you follow IMF fiscal reporting guidelines, or make the deficit look bigger than what it actually is. But back to your core question, uh, shouldn't we spend more on the people, and particularly people who are lower income, poorer people or middle income? The answer, of course, is yes, right? And your question has touched on something which has been very close to my heart for many years. I've always said, practically every year, how is it that the media, nobody ever in parliament has ever brought up what I call the mother of all Singaporeans' problems? And that is, from a cash flow perspective, we may not be spending any money on HDB, CPF, or healthcare. Now, HDB is the easiest one, right? The price of a BTO HDB flat, the cost component that is charged to land is about 50%. And HDB pays for the cost of land to another government agency. So it's a left hand or left pocket to right pocket transaction. So when HDB says, oh, the more flats we build, the more money we lose, every year we have a deficit of 1 or 2 billion. Actually, is it really a deficit? Because you're actually
No.
transferring, so you put it, the answer is no. Okay. Now for CPF, similarly, every year the inflows to our CPF system exceeds the outflows from the CPF system. So is the government spending any money on CPF? Wouldn't then say no again, And since we have 400 billion in the CPF, and the weighted average CPF interest rate is probably about 3.6%. And if we say we have been deriving a historical annualized return of say 8% per annum, then the difference that the government is keeping every year from the CPF alone is about 4.4%. Now 4.4%, right, of 400 billion, right, is something like $7 billion, So I hope that answers your question. And let me just add finally that the same thing goes for healthcare.
Sorry, slow down. What do you say about the 4.4% again?
Okay.
Because I'm typing.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
The transcripts, yeah.
Anyway, this Zoom meeting is recorded, right? So
Just
so
informal.
that,
Just submit
okay,
the transcript to you to see what you want to put. Yeah.
No, so okay, let me just briefly say what you're asking. The annualized return derived from investing our CPF is estimated to be about 8% historically. Because recently, at the 40th anniversary of GIC, it was announced that GIC from inception has managed to garner a return of over 5% per annum above global inflation. Now, global inflation is about 3%. So 5 plus 3, looking at 8, right? So it's about 8% annualized return derived from investing our CPF. And if you look at what is the weighted average interest rate paid on all the different CPF accounts, it's probably about 3.6%. So 8 minus 3.6, you get 4.4. So in a sense, we're probably the only country in the world where the government keeps the bulk of the pension returns to itself, which most countries would have given it almost entirely, if not most of it, back to the citizens in the National Pension Fund. Okay, next question or comment, anyone?
So basically, it's again the same old. The government does not spend on public health care, public housing, and pensions, which is the root of a lot of social and economical issues that people are facing and all. And from the returns of Temasek GIC, right? Basically, despite the pandemic, we are one of the best performers. So globally, when you compare with other country or other SWF, the sovereign wealth fund, we are literally the best performer, and yet the government like still wants to raise taxes to collect more from the people. That seems to be the biggest weapon handed to us to use lah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. There is no reason to increase GST or various other increases that have been announced during COVID-19 when there is so much money in the coffers and they could use. Okay, let me just give you an example. Yes, 2 days ago, Hong Kong announced its budget package. And I'm going to tell you some
Hey, I've
of it.
lost you guys. I can't hear anymore. Is there a problem?
We can hear you. Can you hear me? Okay, never mind. Let me just continue. 2 days ago on Wednesday, Hong Kong announced its budget package. And I think it's,
$21 billion.
yeah, so I think it's interesting in our discussion today to do a simple comparison between Hong Kong and Singapore. Then we can relate to Prabhu, Wunten, and Gordon and Michael's questions about are we using enough of the money that we have for the people or not? Okay, Hong Kong budget 21.8 billion US dollars, 170 billion. Now, this 21.8 billion is just the COVID-19 budget, you know. That means this budget is only to help the people during because of COVID-19. It's not the total budget of the Hong Kong government. Okay. Now, in contrast, Singapore's so-called budget, the sums that are going to help people because of COVID-19, right? It's a few billion Sing dollars only. So you compare world of difference, okay. Some significant differences, for example, every person in Hong Kong will be given e-vouchers worth Hong Kong $10,000 to spend. Now, $10,000 is about 1,800 Singapore dollars. And what are we getting in Singapore? CDC voucher. I think it's what, $100. Yeah, okay. But of course, I think everyone's also getting some cash of $600 or something. Okay, but then still it is much lesser compared to what Hong Kong is doing. Okay, next, households will be given $1,000 electricity tariff subsidy. Now in Singapore, what happened? We increased the electricity tariff has just gone up, and although there's a USAFE rebate, but the USAFE rebate is part of the assurance package to offset the increase in GST. So you see the bulk of the $6 billion that is it $6 billion that is set aside for the assurance package is to offset the GST increase. Whereas in Hong Kong, nothing is increasing, no, and they